So all this is really just a basic outline. You know, these settings, there's only some that are really important in your Counter-Strike game. The launch options, making sure vertical sync is off, making sure your sensitivity is right, making sure that everything with your mouse is nice feel when you're in game. Everything else, visual, colors, most of that isn't really important. But like I said, just make sure the flashes are not taxing you while you're in game if it's too bright. Next thing here, going to open up my options menu. Just basic multiplayer settings. You got the different tabs here to go through your settings. I got player name. Start out by entering my alias in here. Got EG nothing. Put this in here. Type that in. Boom. Hit apply. Not done yet though. Crosshair appearance. It's at small right now. I play on medium. Like again, preference, whatever you want. Medium for me is a nice. It's a nice guide. I like to be able to see. I kind of picture the screen as like a little graph, and that's like the nice little center of it. So that helps me with my gun control, being able to see a nice solid crosshair. Next, over in the tabs is keyboard. Gonna make sure everything's good. I use pretty much default setup, so I'm gonna go here, hit use defaults, make sure reset everything's clean, and then I'm just gonna go down the list. Got jump here first. It's at spacebar. Next thing I'm gonna check is that I can, nothing else bound to mouse wheel, doesn't really matter. M wheel down's my jump, really helps with my movement when I'm just strafe jumping, bunny hopping, jumping to anything in vents. So that's that. Dot control, that's good. Bring it down here, voice communication. It's bound to K. On LAN I like to have a quick accessible button for me to press. I use V. It's nice. Just double click on it, set V. But yeah, it's a really nice just to have it close to you, so while you're fighting, you never really want to have to be like, oh, reach over here, reach anywhere wide in this area. You really just want to be able to press it right next to your hand while you're using your movement keys. After that, come down here, buy menu set, all my quick switch menu items are set, display multiplayer scores, tab, everything's good, mouse 2. Oh, I noticed mouse wheel up is bound. I don't like to bind that to anything, so I'm just going to hit clear key. It's not a really valuable bind there for previous weapon. I got all my switches right above my fingers here on my keyboard while I'm playing. That's good. Scroll down. Flashlight don't need. Drop weapon G. It's all default. I use that. Use items. Make sure that's bound. You don't want to ever screw that up in a live match. That would be very bad. Then everything else is good. Everything's bound there. I'm going to go ahead, before I hit OK and close this though, I'm going to go back to my multiplayer tab, and I'm going to hit advanced. This is where you kind of see a nice layout of other things you could enter in the console, but it's just really nice to be able to check all this easy. They didn't used to have this in Counter-Strike older versions, so it's a quick way to fix everything. Smoke, gas grenades, spread quality, best looking, all these I never really mess with, decal time, limits, it's all whatever. Buy menu, old style. I don't like to have a big VGUI menu pop up on my screen and it delays me from moving. I like to move while I buy, and because normally in the first 5-6 seconds of freeze time I don't buy. I normally we're talking with the team, talking about strategy, discussing things like that. So I really like to just be able to move casually out of spawn while I buy. Next thing, automatically switch to picked up weapons if more powerful, and don't like that. If I ever have a deagle and I'm going to swing on a corner and there's a bunch of bodies on the floor, I don't want to pick up a gun on accident right when I'm about to shoot. So that's something I like to turn off. Center player names I like to keep on. That's a really good, I use it, it's kind of like a trick you could apply it to when there's smoke on the ground. You can kind of look for a name to pop up for you to just start firing, and you might get a lucky frag through the smoke if you shoot at the player name. Last thing here. Radar type, solid. I always use solid. It's a big aspect of my game, the radar. And I really like to, with the radar, focus on keeping it so I can always see it when I'm blind, anything. If it's transparent, you can't really see the dots on the screen, so make sure that's set. I use radar all the time. Mid-game situations, I'm always taking a quick peek up there, refreshing my map, my layout in my brain, so I can make moves accordingly to my teammates. So that's good. Hit solid, hit OK, and OK. Done for the basic layout there. Next thing, gonna go ahead and open the console. It's this little tilde button right here above the tab. Just bring this up. FPS max. That's the first thing I like to type in, just so it's just nice basic command. FPS _ max 101. That's a good. It's a good little value for you. That's the best you could have. If you have vertical sync on, you'll know this because your FPS rather will get maxed at 60. So if you ever notice that, that's a nice little key to tell if you forgot something in your video card settings. After that, HUD fast switch, HUD HUD underscore fast switch, set that to 1, enter. That's just for my quick switching on my buttons. Make sure if my gun pulls out mid battle, don't want to lock up there having to click on my mouse 1 just because random setting. Next thing, dynamic crosshair, CL underscore dynamic. Just hit tab after you can type DYN or something, just beginning of the command. Pull it up, it's at 1 right now. I use 0. That's basically so when the crosshair's on your screen, if it's at 1, it expands while you're moving around. If you're at 0, it just stays together while you're moving, so you could really just, I don't know, to me it's like I said, preference before, another one of these things, preference. I prefer not having my crosshair bounce around when I'm aiming at people. And that's that. Next thing, rates. Rates are a big part of your CS because if they're messed up, you'll have a weird connection to the server and it might cause you to just have random little mishaps while you're in game. So come back here, look at the screen again. I'm going to go ahead, rate 25,000. It's the first basic default. Need to have that set. Next is CL underscore CMD rate. Mine's at 101, so that's good. Update rate 10, horrible. That's really low, and it might make your ping lower, which is kind of weird how the command works. But when it's at 101, that's proper for all the packets, everything receiving, sending. So that's good. LAN and online, best settings right there. The next thing I'm going to look at, sensitivity. Sensitivity here default 3.0. That's mostly every time you boot up a machine is at that. I don't use 3.0 though. I'm at 2.3 here. 2.3 has been a sensitivity I used for a while. Occasionally when I went to LCDs, I used to think changing it to a lower value would make it more precise because the hertz changes it, but it doesn't really work anymore. Not really necessary rather when I'm on the 75 hertz 2ms, and especially the new LCDs that are coming out. So everything else is good. Now, just basically fine-tuning, making sure everything else, trying to think if anything else is necessary. I don't really have anything else. One thing I want to make sure there's nothing else bound to mwheel up. In prev, don't like that. Gonna put 2 quotations. That makes it completely done with the bind. So hit enter on that. Mwheel up, nothing's there. My bounce, everything else is bound. And after that, I'm pretty much just going to go in game, and I'm pretty much set for everything. After that, it's whatever. Now you could go talk with your team, you're online, everything's set. The final step for this, if you are at home, type write CFG, and then write your name after it. Just a quick thing, I just write config Jordan, hit enter, and now every time you come back to your computer, if your friends are playing on it, or if it got changed for some reason, you could open up the console, type exec for exec, jordan.cfg, and hit enter, and I'm good. And that's basically it for the settings, guys, and you should be able to set up everything with that. Maybe rewatch this a couple times, see all the settings I use. And that's everything. And this has been a little EGMSI pro tip. We'll be having more on the site soon. Mouse Hertz programs should be on there to download as well, so check for those, and I'll catch you guys later.